Good morning, Tampa Bay. Happy Wednesday, Hump Day edition, Channelside in the morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. Twitter stream is down. I don't know why Periscope does that, but that's okay because we're trying to get you guys over to the YouTube. So if you're following us on YouTube, I definitely appreciate it. The YouTube channel is growing. I mean, getting new followers and new subscribers every single day. So we obviously appreciate everybody that is doing the best they can to get over to the YouTube page, to subscribe to us, and to help propel Tampa's next generation of sports talk forward. Of course, you know me. I am Danny. Welcome to everybody. Thank you for those who are rolling in on Facebook and YouTube currently. We're going to talk about the Bucs depth chart, injuries, hot seats. Somebody asked me an interesting question on social media yesterday, and I'm going to kind of answer that and possibly try to dissect it a little bit later on. We're going to talk a lot about the Rays because the Rays are holy crap, man. Rays are making some noise. Rays are, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I might say that the Rays are the most dangerous team in baseball, and you'll have to stick around to figure out why I'm going to die on that hill currently. But before we get into anything Tampa Bay Rays, of course, we are going to look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers depth chart. Of course, this is the unofficial depth chart that the Buccaneers released yesterday to media. Not much has changed. I'm going to kind of keep this up as I talk through it with you. Obviously, you see Carl Nassib's name up there now in the second spot. Gedeke is as of right now has won the starting left guard role, which I'm okay with. I am okay with Nick Leverett being the backup left guard, even if Nick Leverett does have a higher upside. I am okay with Luke DeLifter starting at left guard because Nick Leverett is probably going to rotate around between left guard, center, and right guard this season. Solely for the fact that, you've got to you just have to look at the depth here. You got Shaq Mason, you got Walt, and I know we normally roll, 2 tackles, 2 guards, etc. But man, we're rolling with 2 guys at left tackle and 2 guys at right guard because we have to. That's the scary part, is we have to do it because there's been no moves made. $6.4 million available in cap space. I talked about this. I talked about this a long time ago, guys. I talked about this before free agency started. Why have we not restructured Donovan Smith's contract? Guy's going to free up $7 million in cap space this year. You could have went into free agency. Obviously, the numbers coming out, the numbers not coming to me right now with what they had available to start free agency. But if we use that number now, you've got about $13 million and change in play money. Sure, you're going to have the void years with Donovan Smith. But after next year, the void years aren't that bad anyway, in terms of where the cap is. Said it once, I'll say it again. Mickey Loomis, not the same GM as Jason Light. He was able to figure it out. He was able to sign 2 difference makers this season. They were $73 million in the cap, in the hole. Buccaneers will be $63 million in the hole to start next season. Got $10 million ahead. So, I mean, it's not the worst. It's not the worst position to be in. I wish they would do something and just get more bodies. That's realistically, that's where I'm at, is you just need the bodies. I said, don't care. Don't sign JC Treader. Don't go after BJ Finney. Don't go after Matt Paredes. Don't go after any of the expensive guys. Get some young, promising guys in there and just get the bodies to compete and give somebody a rest. Like, this is what's scary to me, is in 2 positions, we are starting the second string player, and the third string player, who likely would not have played regardless, is now going to have to be the next man up. which is a shameless and cheap plug for our latest shirt on the Channelside Sports shop for the next man up, because we all know that feeling down here in Tampa Bay. And when it comes to our football team, is we are this was last season. This is what we were looking at, is next man up. We were banged up in a lot of positions. We're already banged up heading into the regular season. And look, injuries are going to happen throughout the season, whether it's in games, it's going to happen whether it's in practice. Like, saying to, go easy in training camp or skip preseason games, I think that's largely a waste of everybody's time, if we're being totally honest here. Like, you generate a lot of revenue in terms of preseason games. Now, yeah, I know, like the Bucks, for example, the Bucks only had one preseason game at home, but there were a lot of people in the stands. That was a lot of money generated for the franchise and for the organization. So preseason games aren't going anywhere. They're not entirely useless. I know a lot of people will go, yeah, but preseason is useless. And you're like, but it's not. It's not. We look at Kyle Trask. How useful has this preseason been for somebody like Kyle Trask? And we'll dive deeper into Kyle Trask here in just a moment, but he's case in point of the preseason is not useless. What do you guys think in the chat? What do you guys feel about preseason? Do we think that it is a useless, get rid of it kind of thing? Obviously, we've slimmed down from 4 games to 3 games because we added the extra benefit of the 17th game. Rate listed above Rudolph as a surprise, but a welcomed one. James in the chat says, and I don't know if I'm surprised personally. Solely for the fact that Kyle Rudolph even said, like, this is Cameron Brate's tight end room. I'm coming in and I'm learning from him because Cameron Brate's just been here, right? So I felt that even if they signed like a future Hall of Famer, let's say Jimmy Graham had a hell of a lot left in the tank, right? And the Buccaneers signed Jimmy Graham, I still think that Cameron Brate would have won that tight end spot solely for the fact that he's been here. He knows Tom Brady. He understands his reads. He understands his look-offs. He understands the playbook. He knows Byron Leftwich's schemes. And I think that was always going to be his position to lose. So seeing Cameron Brate atop the tight end depth chart, to me, is not a surprise, although I can understand it because I think Kyle Rudolph athletically is superior to Cameron Brate. And I think he provides more of a spark. And he's a hell of a lot better blocker. Hell of a lot better blocker than Cameron Brate. That's the one big knack for Cameron Brate, is that his blocking is just not, it's not where it needs to be for a tight end. One of the shockers for me is still seeing Rachaad White listed as RB4. And I know there's going to be some guys going, oh, you're a Rachaad White truther. First of all, you don't have, when you're a good player, you don't have truthers, right? You have truthers when you're a guy like Kyle Trask, who everybody's on the fence about. But I think Rachaad White is going to see his time elevated. I think that he is going to see extended periods of playing this season. And I think that you're going to see him get propelled up the depth chart before the season, especially if the Buccaneers don't make a move, solely for the fact, and look, I don't care about, he's looked probably the best in terms of his yardage. But here's the thing. Rachaad White's blocking is probably the best out of all of the running backs. And if you've got a banged up offensive line, if you are worried about Tom Brady staying upright and you're worried about Tom Brady being able to hopefully average 300 yards a game so he can break Drew Brees' all-time record, I think you need to start looking heavier at playing Rachaad White a little bit more, because he's able to block and protect Tom Brady a hell of a lot better than Keyshawn Vaughn, Giovanni Bernard, and even Leonard Fournette, who's also a good blocker. But if we use, obviously we don't have much game film on Rachaad White at the NFL level. But if we use the game film that we know of Rachaad White from college, and you look at some of those highlights, the dude is a hell of a blocker. He is a hell of a baller. Thank you. Shout out to Bucks Life in the chat. He is a baller for sure. He has a very high upside. One of my hot takes not too long ago was that Rachaad White is going to take over the starting role from Leonard Fournette at some point. And I don't know if we'll entirely see that at this point, solely because he's number 4 on the depth chart.
That's blasphemy.
But I still believe like his blocking is going to propel him. And I would be shocked if this is the final depth chart that we see and it does not include Rachaad White as likely RB2, because he's got to be out there. He's got to be out on the field to protect Tom Brady, because there are too many question marks on the offensive line. How do you feel about are there any surprises on the depth chart to you that you've seen?
No, not really. I mean, everything's pretty much locked into where it's supposed to be.
Right.
So I'm not shocked at all, honestly. We're right.
I think, yeah.
I think they're right. I think everything is right where it's supposed to be for the start of the season. And if they were going to make any changes, there'd be minor ones. Well, other than that, I think we're right where they want to be.
Yeah, I think I think that the biggest thing that we're going to see is for me is going to be the change in running back. I don't think Nick Leverett is going to take over the starting left guard role from Luke the Lifter. Solely for the fact that he is more valuable at this point, right? Like Luke may be rough around the edges in terms of blocking. We know he's super strong, but he might make some mistakes because he's a rookie. But Nick is able to play essentially 3 positions, and he's able to play 3 positions where he's going to be needed. So if you've got the luxury of having a player like Nick Leverett on your team that you can plug and play in 3 different positions, all of which are question marks right now. And I say right guard is question mark because there's a huge drop off. There is a huge drop off after Shaq. If Shaq Mason needs to take a breather, there's a huge drop off. Right? This is where you got to go, okay, do we really start Nick Leverett? He might be the better player at left guard, but do we start him or do we reserve him and say, hey, we're just going to have you fill in based off, how many times in business, Evan, do you hear per needs of the business?
Every single day.
Every day you ask for a raise or a promotion, per needs of the business. But like, there is no way that he has not heard that already from the front office and the coaching staff. Is per needs of the business, Nick, you cannot be our starting left guard because you are too valuable, and we will likely need you at right guard. We will likely need you at center, and we will likely need you at left guard. So you can't be a starting position.
What's that one phrase like the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many or something like that?
Something like needs of the few and the wants of the many, I think.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or something like that.
Something like that.
I think that was from Star Trek Part 2 or whatever, but
but it's a good phrase for sure.
And let me pose a question to you. I don't know if you haven't covered it because I, of course, was a little bit late coming into the show. Do you think thank you. And that's probably Jay Spock. Exactly. Do you think the Bucks could go maybe O-line by committee?
This is the question that I saw. Somebody asked me this on Facebook.
Okay.
Some random person like sent a DM. It was like, you got a message request from such and such. And I was like, oh, maybe it's like from the marketplace. Somebody's going to go, hey, is this available? And then just not respond back after you say, yes, it is. I don't know.
Because I only asked that question because it could be kind of I shouldn't say smart move, but it could be kind of like a unique move and situation. Because if you're having guys rotate out by a committee, then if you're a defensive coach, if you're a DC, then you're really going to have to adjust your line as, okay, well, we've got this person in now. How are we going to adjust blocking, trying to get through them to get to the quarterback?
Yep. It's definitely a smart move if they try it.
Right.
And it's worth giving it a shot, especially against a team like Dallas, because you're
Right.
going to find out real quick if that works or not, because Dallas has a hell of a pass rush.
It's definitely something that they could try because, down here in Tampa, we like to do things a little bit different. I mean, the Rays do. They do it all the time, especially when it comes to pitching. So
Right.
it would be an interesting thing to see that if the Bucs do say, hey, you know what, we're going to do this by committee just to kind of shake things up a little bit. I think that kind of puts the defenses on their toes as, okay, well, who are they rotating in now? Like, who are they putting in now to guard Brady?
Right.
Where like the adjustments and the audibles that they're going to have to call are going to be kind of like out of this world because they don't really know who they're going to be going up against. You know what I mean?
And I mean, like I said, it's worth a shot.
Yeah,
because you've got too many question marks right now, and you've got a hell of a 5-game stretch to open your season.
Yep.
Figure it out week 1. Like there was a shootout last year, week 1 between Tampa Bay and Dallas. Figure it out again, and we're so lucky with the amount of talent we have at the skill positions that we can afford to kind of take these gambles. Right, because you could double a Micah Parsons, you can double you can make these things happen. We talked about it yesterday. You could run split back with Leonard Fournette and Rashad White out there. They're both great pass catching running backs. They're both good blockers, with Rashad White being slightly better, in my opinion, at protecting the quarterback than Lenny is. Do that, because now you're looking at going, hey, I mean. Now you're talking about kind of giving an answer to what you have in terms of the questions on your offensive line for depth.
Right.
You can make up for it because you have the luxury of running backs that are able to block. Did you imagine putting like Cameron Brate back there? Not good.
Honestly, Danny, not only do I imagine it, I would think they would be creative enough to maybe to try it.
Right.
Because they with all the position players that they have, why not try one of the tight ends back there? You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we've got these extra position players that we're probably not going to use a lot. Why not put them back there? Because we do need the extra help, and obviously they're not going to be signing anybody anytime soon. So why not be creative with it? That to me speaks to good coaching. Is when you're taking, hey, no risk it, no biscuit. If you're not risking it to get the biscuit, and you're not being creative about it, you're not a good coach to me. So I would say be creative and use those extra bodies to protect your old man of a quarterback.
Right.
So
I'm totally with you. Here's what's funny is if you look at, James in the chat brings up a great point. When was the last time we were worried about the secondary?
Right.
We haven't been worried about the secondary. Like, that's crazy to me because
that's usually been the worriness for the past, before Brady came into town, the past God knows how many years.
And even with Brady, even Brady's first year, the year that we won the Super Bowl, there was still like,
so many questions.
And now there's not, so this is where you go through and you go, okay, secondary is good. Even with all of the questions, Evan, all of the question marks that they have surrounding the offensive line, they are still the NFC favorite to represent the Super Bowl. They're still the favorite. Right. And it's still not even close. Like,
now, Danny, is that because the NFC is not great? Or
the Packers still haven't gotten any better? Right. That's the crazy part. Like, the Bucs haven't wavered at all. The Packers dropped when Aaron Rodgers came out and called their wide receivers. DraftKings and FanDuel dropped their odds.
He hates his wide receiver core.
He hated his wide receiver core when he had Devontae Adams, though, too. Aaron Rodgers is just an angry guy.
I'm trying to think about which NFC team would challenge them, and it was, to my mind, it was the Rams up until the point where Matthew Stafford has that elbow injury, because that puts in a lot of question. Is okay, well, if he aggravates this during the season and he's out, and maybe he has to get because remember we talked about this a few weeks ago where. That's almost like a pitching injury where if it gets to the point where, hey, look, I can't throw, I have to have Tommy John surgery on this. Like, the Rams are screwed. They don't even know who their backup quarterbacks are.
Right. Well, and here's the thing is, like, now we're looking at it going, okay, so
honestly, man, if there's one team I'm playing Homer for you. If there's one team, and this is after watching Hard Knocks episode 2 last night to catch up. I hope it's the Detroit Lions.
You know what? If I
solely because I get so amped up watching Dan Campbell just rev up those guys. It's so nice.
Dude, even if Dan Campbell is not the greatest head coach, right? Like people will go, "Oh, he's just a meathead." He's whatever. A head coach is supposed to surround himself with great coaches at their position anyway. Great offensive and defensive coordinators, assistants, etc.
Right.
Your job as the head coach really should be the rah-rah guy, and there's not a better guy in the NFL, in my opinion, at rah-rah.
Hey, guys, we've got
MCDC.
we've got a ton of guys in here. You know, I'm excited to see you play. We're so excited. I'm excited to see you play. Hey, we're all winners here.
You sounded like a cross between Jim Ross and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That's what Dan Campbell sounds like.
I'm waiting for a by God.
My God. Hey, we got winners here, and these winners, I can't wait to see you guys play. I'm excited. We're all excited. I can't wait. Let's do this.
Falcons. Jay in the chat thinks the Falcons are going to be a team. You know what? I mean, it's not entirely out of the scope because look, there's a lot of teams, and we're going to talk about this later when we talk about the Rays. There are a lot of teams that are being overlooked simply for the fact that there were question marks, right? Like the Lions had question marks. They won 3 games last year. The Falcons had question marks. What's going to happen at quarterback? Mariota's not looked bad. Desmond Riddler has not looked bad. There's other teams that are being overlooked currently.
I was thinking about that the other day. That's kind of weird that I did think about the Falcons because they've got so much of this young talent on this team now, which, you know, they're trying to build upon. The only thing I'd be concerned about is really who's going to be. Is Marcus Mariota really going to carry this? You know, lead this team to greatness? That's the only thing. I mean, Atlanta had so many question marks coming into the season too because of, you know, Matt Ryan leaving and all the personnel changes. So it's the Falcons are maybe could be a dark horse, but I don't see it, man. I just don't. I don't. Sorry, James. And I know James is all up on Kyle Pitts, but Kyle Pitts, he needs somebody better to throw him to.
We need to see how Kyle Pitts performs without Matt Ryan because we know Matt Ryan is a slinger.
Right.
You know, like that's the thing for me. And look, if you look at a team like the Falcons, right? We're hearing nothing. You don't hear a word about the Falcons, good, bad, or indifferent. The Falcons are just
these two. I mean, we got James and Jay in the comments, and they're these two jokers that think the Falcons are going to be a sleeper team. And I know James loves SEC teams, so he's all over an ex-Gator,
right?
Because he loves Kyle Pitts. Guys, go back to sleep.
I mean, I guess it depends on what your vision of a sleeper team is.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be an underrated team heading into the season. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that overlook them when they get in, right? That they go, it's the Falcons. We're not really. It's the
now. See, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I can say I could agree with they could be an underrated or undervalued team. A sleeper team, no. Undervalued and maybe overlooked a little bit, yes. But not, hey, they're going to come out of nowhere and they're going to make the playoffs. I don't see that anytime soon.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely not. You know what? Let's keep rolling here, Bushman.
Sure.
We're on the ex-Gator train.
Was that a good transition?
Let's keep this rolling here. How hot is Kyle Trask's seat right now? Like, is he even able to sit, or is he doing like that? I'm in a public restroom. I got to hover over the throne, kind of squat on his seat right now.
Does he have any kind of sunscreen on his bottom? Because it is scorching hot, I think.
I would assume that there would be some Gators fans out there willing to apply said sunscreen.
Probably the guys that are in our chat right now that love Gators right now.
Look, I don't know how many times I have said this, Evan, is I want Kyle Trask to succeed because he's already here. I don't want to be talking later on in the season or in the off season going, what are the Bucs going to do at quarterback? I already want that answered. And Kyle Trask has not looked good in the off. He's one of the only quarterbacks who has double-digit interceptions. The Buccaneers had to remove videos of him throwing interceptions because of the negative publicity that he's getting.
Well, okay. So looking, I mean, I would say his seat should be a little bit warm because he should be kind of worried about his performance in the preseason. This is year 2. He's year 2 underneath this regime. I mean, look, you could say, oh, it's a different head coach. Well, it's the same coaching staff. The only change that they had was at the head coaching position. So it's pretty much the same deal.
Still the same.
It's the same thing. So you would think coming into year 2, there would be some developmental progression. And it just seems like there's no progression at all. It's just the same. It's like mistake after mistake. And you would think being in the same room and being on the same field as Tom Brady, you would think there would be some development.
Right.
And I will criticize Gator players all day, especially Gator quarterbacks. They have not done well in the pros. Gator quarterbacks do not succeed. And I know you can say Steve Spurrier all day, but not really. Like now in the modern game that we are, the modern UF quarterback that comes out of college and tries to go in the pros, they sink. And right. I did not like the Kyle Trask pick when it came down anyways. And that's not because I'm not a Gator fan. I'm not, but there were so many other options at the quarterback position they could have drafted it.
Yeah.
So if I would, I think Trask should be very worried about, his job security. So, Tebow won. Dude, get off the Tebow train. Like Tebow won a playoff game because of his defense, and he got lucky. That's not. I'm talking about success. Like actual consistent success.
And then he couldn't beat out Mark Sanchez in New York for the starting QB role.
Right. And then he went and played baseball for a little bit, didn't succeed at that, and then tried to go back into the pros as a tight end, didn't succeed at that. So, fellas, it's not going to work out.
Yeah. Here's the thing for me is, do you remember before training camp, Clyde Christensen came out and said, there's no battle for QB2.
Yeah, because Blaine Gabbert already has the job. Blaine Gabbert is your number 2.
And this is before training camp. Literally the very next day, Todd Bowles comes out and goes, well, everybody's going to be competing for roles, which is total damage control because Todd Bowles is very good at damage control, which we found out during the whole Tom Brady thing.
You know what? Right? I think that the heir apparent to Tom Brady is either Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask. No. Because it's going to be Lamar Jackson. That's
why. Which is crazy because now everybody else is running with it. And we've been talking about it since June.
I know.
Here we are, end of August, and we've been talking about it forever.
The stars are aligning. It's going to happen.
Look, I'm not saying Kyle Trask is going to lose his job and get cut from this team. I don't think you can cut your second-round draft pick on his second season. I just don't think you can. But he should.
Didn't they do that to Roberto Aguayo?
I mean, he's but you need to, he needs to progress, and he needs to be better. That's the issue for Kyle Trask is dude, you're playing with your first team offense against your first team defense, and you're not looking good. Sure, he's making some good reads, but when it comes down to it, he's not making great reads. And that's the problem for Kyle Trask is dude, you've got to show signs of improvement because we've got 17 question marks at quarterback after Tom Brady leaves. And, it's not even close between Kyle Trask and Blaine Gabbert for QB2, and that's the problem. That's the problem right now is it's not even close. If it was a debatable topic between who is going to be the backup quarterback, Evan, Kyle Trask's seat's not very hot, but it's not even close.
I would say, obviously, he's not going to be any games anytime soon, unless they're garbage games, garbage time. So I would say the evaluation has to come. Okay, year 2, he's still kind of struggling. There's no really progression at all. Year 3 is it.
That's got to be the make or break.
It's got the hot seat is probably warm right now. He should definitely be worried about his job a little bit because it should be warm. His seat should be just, hey, I've got the water running. It's starting to get hot. It's warm now.
Mm-hmm.
So after this season, obviously, when they have practice and if there's no progression during the season when they have practice during the week, obviously we're probably going to hear that news. But going into year 3, where obviously, if Brady stays or if Brady goes, you're now vaulted into the number 2 spot because, if we don't bring anybody in through free agency or, a trade when it comes to the quarterback position, you're now the number 2 guy behind Blaine Gabbert. So there has to be some sort of, okay, well, I'm going into year 2. I'm actually vaulted into the number 2 spot. I really have to compete to stay on this team. Because, look, we'll go to show you, if in the NFL, if you're not progressing, they will cut you, regardless of draft pick status. They will cut you.
Well, and you have to remember, Evan, Blaine Gabbert's a free agent after this season as well. He was only signed to a 1-year contract. And you can't tell me that the team is going to go, well,
if I'm the Bucs, I'm not.
I guess we're going to roll with Trask.
I'm not going to pay Blaine Gabbert like stay here money. I'm not. If I'm the Bucs, I'm not doing that. So, everybody should be a little bit worried about this problem.
I'm 100%. This is where you go.
This is where we should have drafted Davis Mills.
In all honesty, I mean, yeah, you could have drafted Davis Mills. You could have, when Jimmy Garoppolo was at the lowest point of his trade value earlier in this offseason. I mean, his trade value is probably still pretty low, but you should have been on the phone and just said, hey, we need a serviceable quarterback. Because look,
and Danny, we talked about this a few months ago that even having like Baker Mayfield here,
100%
would have been a nice option at that backup position too.
Yep. The quarterback position is obviously the most important role on your football team.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people argue whether quarterback wins and losses are a stat, right? Like that's because it's the most important role on your team. And a serviceable quarterback around good players can make things happen. Look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Look at Eli Manning. Eli Manning was not a great quarterback. He's won 2 Super Bowls.
Mouth-breathing idiot.
The only thing that I like about Eli Manning is the double birds on the Manning. That's the only thing that I like is the double birds. You could blur this, right?
I mean, the scenario for the Jimmy G conversation is maybe San Francisco keeps him throughout the year because obviously, you traded Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins was on the Raiders, but they're bad. I mean, right now the quarterback situation in San Fran is you have Trey Lance is your number 1, Jimmy G is your number 2, essentially, because they already said they're rolling with Trey Lance. San Fran's probably going to keep Jimmy G for a little bit.
You know what's crazy to me, Evan? Is you listen to everything coming out of San Francisco, and they are so behind Trey Lance. He's everything we wanted and more, John Lynch said. Verbatim, he said that. And then we've got our quarterback coach in Tampa going, he ain't ready.
Yeah.
Guys.
The sample size I've seen of Trey Lance has not been impressive. So that's why I'm really kind of surprised that they are rolling with Trey Lance instead of carting out Jimmy G, who's apparently 100% fine, by the way, and now ready to go. Hey, but we're not San Francisco fans, so what does it matter?
Would I be wrong to say that obviously I want the Buccaneers to sweep the Panthers, but in the first game, I would love to see Baker Mayfield just light us up.
here's a
I feel like you guys should have traded for me. Just saying.
here's a kind of a question and almost like a pondering question too. Do you think the Bucs have maybe pigeonholed themselves by getting Brady? Now, obviously, we got the Super Bowl. That's what we got him for. We got him to bring a Super Bowl into town. But do you think they also pigeonholed themselves by bringing him in, where, now at the quarterback position, there's so many question marks after he leaves. It's almost as if we should have gone the other route. This is a hypothetical situation, everybody in the comments. Don't come at me going, oh my God. But I mean, with now the situation is, if Brady comes back or not, if he leaves, our quarterback situation is we have a free agent in Blaine Gabbert who might leave.
Free agent, yeah.
Or he might stay, but he's going to ask for a lot of money. And then we have our second round pick, Kyle Trask, who hasn't really shown any flashes of progression. And Ryan Griffin, of course. That's pretty much it. Those are our options right now at the QB position.
I don't know if it's necessarily a pigeonholing per se, but I do think that they didn't strategically plan this out long term.
Because it was the all in. I'm putting my hand all in chips.
Right. Jay in the chat mentioned earlier, we bet the farm
right
for multiple seasons in a row because of Tom Brady, which is, makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Right. But you know what? Here's a reality of it though as well. Let's say that Baker Mayfield plays decent. He's still a free agent next season.
And he'll command a lot of money though.
It depends on how he plays.
True.
Tom Brady might be willing to restructure his contract again. We don't know. Things can work out. We've talked about this like 3 times in the last 3 or 4 broadcasts. Is Mickey Loomis figured it out, and Jason Light is a better GM than Mickey Loomis is, and that's all I need to know is that we're in a better financial situation, and we've got a better GM, and we've got some of the best recruiters. Tom Brady could be calling up somebody right now going, hey, this is going to be my last season. You've got a ridiculous talent pool of skill position players here. Like, you've arguably got the best. I don't know.
Jay's putting in the comments, Trask is the long-term plan. But if he's the long-term plan and if there's no, that long-term plan should be maybe a short plan, because right now nobody's really all in on Kyle Trask taking over the reins of this team.
He's got a 5-year plan like Sid from Big Daddy.
I would be, I can't agree with this, having him as the long-term plan. To me, he's not it.
You want him to be the long-term plan.
No, I don't want him to be it. I'd rather have them go at a different option.
But I'm saying, like, you hope that he pans out and he is the long-term plan, but he's not looking like it so far. And you have to address it, because what's going to happen is you're going to come out. You're going to be a Super Bowl contender this season. Tom Brady retires after this season. And then you go from a team that is, oh my God, stacked outside of quarterback and might not even win your own division.
Yeah, if Brady leaves, they're a 6-win team. That's it, 6.
It's going to be very difficult. And look, people go, oh, well, Trent Dilfer, and it's a different time.
Yeah.
It's a different league. It's a passing league. Trent Dilfer was not part of the passing league NFL. And if you've got a quarterback that is, look, I would take Jared Goff 10 times over Kyle Trask. And people rag on Jared Goff like it's nobody's business. This is the issue, is like, let me ask you this, Evan.
Sure.
Should we have the benefit of garbage time games and we pulled Tom Brady?
Yeah.
We need to put in Kyle Trask instead of Blaine Gabbert into actual NFL game situations, in my opinion.
I totally agree with that, because we all know what Blaine Gabbert can do and his limitations. And if your long-term plan, going back to what Jay said in the comments, if your long-term plan is to have him in games, yeah, I would definitely put out Trask to do that garbage time and to see how he does in those situations, because then that way you're helping him develop too, because now you're putting him in real time, real game situations.
Right.
But I mean, if look, garbage time is garbage time, but for some teams, it is real life, real game time situation. So I would definitely do that because that's going to help him progress, and it'll probably help his confidence too.
Right. I would assume so. I mean, you're not going to lose. You're not going to lose anything by putting Kyle Trask out there because in garbage time, you're still playing your starters.
Right.
If you're on defense, right. You're not playing your practice squad players like we see in training camp.
And most likely he's going to go against the first team defense too in the garbage time.
Exactly. So there you go. Now you get your real determination because you're going to be playing against a hungry defense that is trying to generate turnovers and trying to possibly get back into a game, even though it might be out of reach. Kyle Trask, folks.
Kyle Trask.
Most polarizing topic in Tampa now that Tom Brady was not on The Masked Singer. Did you see what Cam Brate said?
I did not see what he said.
If Tom Brady was actually on The Masked Singer, there's no way he could have done as bad as Rob Gronkowski.
I can definitely agree with that.
Oh my God. You know what? Here's what's crazy, Evan. How about 11 runs last night from our Tampa Bay Rays?
The Rays bringing the lumber last night.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Are the Rays currently the most dangerous team in the major leagues?
They're the hot team right now, but I wouldn't say calm down. I would say calm down just a little bit because they are playing the Angels. So I want to see this against the better teams coming up. Like I want to see them against Boston coming up and then New York. Like I want to see this. This is the type of runs scoring I want to see against our AL East opponents when we play them in the next couple of weeks. That's what I want to see. I mean, it's nice. Look, they're taking care of business against the teams that you should be taking care of business from. You're beating the crap out of them. That's what you want to see, and that's what I hope they are going to continue to roll with this type of ball playing. And of course, you have Manuel Margot contributing again. You have Harold Ramirez contributed again. These two guys that were on the IL for almost a couple months apiece, and now they're back and they're bringing the bats with them. So it's almost like they didn't skip a beat when they went on the IL. They're back and they're making an instant impact.
You know, the Rays are 14-7 in August, which is where they needed to be.
Right.
They're creating their separation, and they currently have the longest winning streak in major leagues with 4. Which very well possibly could get up. You know, they got 2 more games against the Angels today and tomorrow. That could get up to 6 before you travel to Boston.
Hey, is it 1:00 game tomorrow? I might have to play hooky and go.
You're looking a little peaked.
I think I've got the Rona. I might have to go to, and it's on ESPN Plus tomorrow too. It's a daytime game.
Yep.
So I might have to go. Sick day.
Unlimited PTO.
Oh.
Chang and Mayhow were the only players last night to not record a hit for the team, which is insane.
It is very insane. And a couple of injury updates. Wander Franco was hitting in the cage yesterday. Good sign. And then Tyler Glasnow was throwing off the mound, hitting high 90s. Could be coming back probably maybe in September or so. He hasn't ruled it out. So that's also very good too as well.
100%. JT Chargois.
He's
designated to come back.
Very good.
Yes, he's already activated. Like, let's go.
The guys, I think the Rays are just like, look, we may have like a couple of down weeks and maybe a down month, but we're gonna hold off these guys until when it really matters is when it's come to playoff time.
Right.
I'm gonna go back to the most dangerous team. They're starting to heat up. I wouldn't say they're the most dangerous team just yet, because they're just playing the bottom feeder teams right now. Like, I want them to roll into September like this, because then if you're playing like this against the teams in the gauntlet next month, then you become the most dangerous team rolling into the playoffs.
Well, I think for me, like, I look at the terms like dangerous being I feel like teams are overlooking them.
That's good. I would prefer that.
Right. But like if you and I are sitting here going, dude, we notice a hell of a lot of inconsistencies for like 60% of the season.
Mm-hmm.
We notice 17 people on IL at one point. You can't tell me that the coaching staffs and managers of these other teams are not noticing that as well. And I feel like that to me is what makes them dangerous, because they've got a patchwork roster right now.
Right.
And they're stringing together wins. They're winning 2 times more They're winning 2 times more than they are losing for the month of August. And we're damn near the end of August. So I would put them in the conversation of being the most dangerous team. Now, I wouldn't say they're the best team, but I would say they're very dangerous because they're showing us what they can do while they're missing Glasnow and Franco and Kiermaier, and they're missing so many guys, and they're still able to string wins and get everything going and create this separation.
What was our playoff odds yesterday? 74%?
Yes.
It is now up to 79% after yesterday.
yeah.
79%.
There you go.
Looking at the schedule ahead, they play they have their gauntlet coming up, and there's 3 teams. One I don't really count as a sub 500 team because they're still a pesky, dangerous team. That's the Red Sox. But the other 2 teams, they only play 2 teams that are sub 500, and that's the Rangers and the Miami Marlins. The rest they're all playoff contender teams.
Right.
So this is the sign of hopefully things to come in the next like month or month and a half or so is rolling into the playoffs. This is the type of baseball you want to see.
Yeah.
Like this is I think this is what we've been waiting for all season long, is to now everything's coming together and they're actually like playing great looking baseball. Everybody, like the roster on like the hitting is there, like that's what we've been waiting on, and we've got guys that are contributing that we didn't think are contributing to the team too as well. And then you have guys coming back from the IL and they're making just instant impacts. That's what you want to see. You want to see them coming back from the IL and they're having a slow time coming back. Like Manuel Margot and Harold Ramirez just made instant impacts as soon as they got back on the team.
Came back like they never left.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what we've been wanting to see all year long. I know we talk about the consistency of this team. That's been one of their Achilles heel. Is the consistency. The consistency is starting to come together. It's like you're making like a nice big cake. Well, we've got the eggs in, we've got the batter, we've got the milk, we've got the flour. It's starting to mix well together.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question here. I guess not even hypothetical. It's what's happening right now. Would you rather see the Red Sox heat up right now and knowing that we have them coming on Friday, win these next 2 games against Toronto? Because today's a bullpen day for the Angels. We're not going to see Ohtani. Should win all 4 games. Would you rather see the Red Sox heat up, win the next 2 games over Toronto to help us create separation? Or would you rather keep Toronto close, have them win their next 2 games, and keep the Red Sox kind of wheeling and go into Boston against a team that just can't seem to get it together and is on a losing streak?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think we need to have Boston heat up. I think we can take care of business on our own. And whatever the baseball gods seem fit, if they help us out or not when it comes to the other teams that are competing for the playoff spot, so be it. But I think I think as long as we take care of business, we're going to be in no matter what. So I think with that series, with Toronto and Boston coming up, with those 2 teams playing each other, they're going to beat each other up anyways. So that might be a split series with them, which will help us out anyways. So yeah, I would say no. I would say, as the Rays and a Rays fan, let's put the blinders on and just focus on each game day to day. Let's not worry about what's going on outside.
That's fair. One thing that we talk about a lot is the lack of polarizing player, the lack of like a franchise, the face of a guy like an Evan Longoria, like arguably a Brett Phillips, right? Just a guy that the fans love. Is Randy Arozarena becoming that guy?
I think he put his stamp on that when he had his performance in the playoffs last year, and then also the year before when that thing went down against the Dodgers with the Brett Phillips. Like he became like that. Look, he was one of those guys that came in that trade as well, and they were high up on him, and he's really produced ever since he got into the majors. So I would say he's one of the this reminds me of back when the Rays had like the 3 or 4 faces of the franchise. You had the Carl Crawfords of the world, you had the Evan Longorias of the world, you had the James Shields of the world, like those faces of the franchises. So now this is kind of like the new generation that's coming in. And Franco is he is supposed to be the face of the franchise. I mean, we gave him $100 million contract, for God's sakes. So he's one of those guys.
Hard to be when you're on the IL, though.
It is.
That's the difficult part, is like if you look and go, okay, like he is the guy for Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to put that check mark next to Arozarena.
I'm gonna agree with you upon that, because he's definitely been that spark that the Rays have always had, like wanted to have it, and he's really been that face of the franchise, where he's been almost kind of like that quiet cheerleader. Like he's not boisterous, he's not like the front like Brett Phillips was, but Randy can play, and he can also like grab the attention of the fans. I would put him as a face of the franchise no matter what.
Those angry bat flips are.
I know, dude, and the pumping of the chest, like give that to me all day, bro.
Yeah, he doesn't talk, he doesn't jaw, but it's like the motions, right? Yeah. That's what does it for me. And I think that him being essentially the fuel for this offensive onslaught that we have seen for the month of August, I think that just propels him into being, hey, like this is the guy. This is the face of the Tampa Bay Rays franchise.
Danny, imagine when Franco comes back, like at least at like 95% healthy. He comes back in the lineup. Then you have Diaz, who's been tearing the cover off the ball. You have Margot and Ramirez, who have been just awesome coming back from the IL. You have Arozarena, who has been heating up and has been staying hot. So imagine those 4 or 5 guys staying where they're at right now, as consistent as they've been at the plate, going into the playoffs. That is a scary lineup. That's a lineup I would put against any other lineup in the majors right now. And you also remember too, you guys got like Paredes too, that has been hitting the ball well. Bethancourt has been hitting the ball, and he's been pitching too. So you have also almost like a two-way player in Bethancourt too. As well.
ESPN just called Bethancourt the Rays version. Yeah, and I was like,
let's pump the brakes on that. But just imagine like all those guys like being hot into the playoffs. Like that's a scary lineup to pitch against.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do. And I hope they can stay hot. That's the biggest thing for me, is I hope that they can stay hot and can stay consistent. The Rays moved up 3 in the power rankings. They're back up into the top 10 now. Yep. Which is great, because that's where you want to be. But that to me shows like, hey, we're kind of under, and that's why I think they're dangerous.
I would rather have them be still the under the radar team than being the hot team right now, or the team that's just going to roll. I would rather have them look. They're like that every single year, like where they're the team that's still underrated and under talked about when it comes to coming into the playoff or the playoff picture. So I would rather have them be that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would rather have them come out of nowhere and go, oh, this team, well, where'd the Rays come from? Well, they've always been there. You guys just haven't talked about them.
Do you think that's because of the market, or because of the lack of spending and the lack of like superstar name attraction that is associated with the Rays? Or
I think it's a combination of all three, but it mostly has to do with just being the small market, and everybody looks down upon the Rays as, every article I see is, the Rays somehow stay in it. Well, they've been staying in it for the past how many years? Like, you shouldn't even say, they somehow seem to stay in it. Well, they have good quality players that they roll out. You shouldn't have to say, they always seem to stay in it. They're always in it every single year.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a shocker to you.
Yeah, it shouldn't be some kind of, oh my God, they're in it again? Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think it's just a lack of the national media always has to look down upon the little guy, and that's what the Rays are. They're the little guy team. They're in the small market team where they don't get a lot of attendance that comes to the games, but they somehow, hey, they're still in it.
I think that if we had a more hands-on owner,
Yeah,
that
I
it
agree.
would be different. You know, like if we acted the part, because look, Stu Sternberg, I don't know if that's like his thing, but I feel like he really embraces we're a small market team. Like we're gonna have wild card banners up in the Trop. Like get rid of that kind of stuff. You're staying in the Trop for another couple of years anyway, right? But like start acting the part instead of playing. It's almost like playing a martyr, in my opinion, where you're like, oh yeah, well look at little us. All of this stuff is in your control, dude.
Well, I also think it has to do with like all the dog and pony show things that have been going on with the stadium. Hey, we're in the middle of almost in the end of August, and going into September. What was that deadline again, Danny?
August.
Oh, yeah, we still haven't had anything as a special announcement.
I'm gonna reach out to the mayor and I'm gonna like write an article and be like, we reached out to the mayor and they declined to comment.
Right. But I think it's all the negative media that's been coming about because of him is, you know, the stadium stuff, the the sister shitty plan, like it's all been negative press because, you know, it seems to everybody else is, oh, well, you guys can't seem to get anything done around here when it comes to a stadium and bringing fans and butts in the seats. So I definitely agree. If we had more of an owner that, you know, did live down here and was a hands-on owner where he could, you know, make these decisions where they would be positive impactful instead of like a negative impact, you would see maybe more of a shinier light on the press when it comes to the Tampa Bay Rays. But since we've had so many just dumb marketing decisions and dumb press conferences about, hey, we're going to do a stadium in this, or hey, we're doing the sister shitty plan with Montreal, like it's been nonstop blemishes when it comes to having a positive light on this team. When this team is a great team, it's a great organization. It's just run by just an out of touch idiot owner.
I think for me, what really sold me on all right, something needs to change. You know, like I don't know where I heard the phrase, but I've heard like you either change people or you change people. You know what I mean? And when Rob Manfred was getting questions during the All-Star break, not about the All-Star game, not about the World Series, but about the Rays stadium. And that was just this season.
Right.
I was like, all right, like, I don't know how much power the owner or the commissioner of baseball has. Like if it's like a vote out system, how it could be in the NFL or how it happened with Donald Sterling in the NBA. But it's almost to the point where it's like, all right, guys, we got to come together and we got to force this guy to do something.
Right.
Because they're not doing anything. I'm the commissioner of baseball. I've got more important things to worry about, like destroying the game of baseball. I don't need to worry about the stadium drama that's in Tampa.
Danny, I guarantee you, if Bud Selig was still the commissioner, he would probably have this done and like already. Like, hey, you have a deadline. Get this done, or your powers as an owner are going to be relinquished from you, because it's gone on way too long. About like Man Clown is, as I call him, is he just, I'm sure he was up at the podium, he gets that question, he's like, come on guys, really, I have to answer this, like, and the All-Star break, come on guys, like it's been dragged out way too long. It's the broken record that we continuously talk about over and over, that it gets brought up every year. It gets just blown out of proportion every single year, but oh, they're going to do this, and then nothing ever happens. We've got deadlines that don't get met. It's like, enough is enough. Let's get it done. Mm-hmm. And, you know, James brings up a great point that, you know, the commissioner answers to the owners. So, you know, for the ownership to, maybe the ownership, other owners go, you know what, maybe it's time for you to sell the team. Just like the Angels owner is thinking about selling his team. You know, I'm sure, even though Stu says, like, look, I'm going to keep this team for a long time, but I'm sure enough pressure will come upon him to say, look, either sell the team or do something with it.
Yeah. It's just, like I said, I know the commissioner answers to the owners in all sports, right? You're basically a public servant for the owners, but you still have power. Otherwise, you would not be appointed the commissioner.
Right.
So you do have some sort of stake and some sort of power when it comes to making the decisions best for the league. And that's where it's got to get to the point where you're like, all right, let's move. Like, let's move on. I don't care if it's Nashville. I don't care if it's Montreal. I don't care where it is. Obviously, I think that baseball would like them to stay in Tampa because Tampa is it's a very sports centric city. It's a winning city right now. You know, and I think that that's what you want. That's where you would like to keep it because you can see beyond where they are currently and see like, hey, there's something special to be had here if we make the right moves and formulate our plan correctly and get over the stadium BS, get an owner. You know, I know James in the chat said he wishes Vinnick could buy. Obviously, we know that it's not possible. But it's physically not possible legally. You're not allowed to own 3 sports franchises.
Also, I think Danny, before we wrap up, I know we're going over. I think if we had an owner that was more, going back to the hands-on thing, but also, an owner that really is, caters to the fans, fans would go.
Right. Because there's no real reason to go.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an owner that's really kind of putting you off with all the business decisions he's made about the team, of course you're not going to. Why would you want to support him and his pockets? Why would you want to put money in his pockets?
Yep. I know people are clowning the Gators right now for, you can buy Florida Gators ticket packages at Costco. Who cares?
You can.
Yeah. You can buy 2 tickets. You get 2 sodas and 2 hot dogs.
So what you're saying is I can go get a large pack of toilet paper, a huge box full of M&Ms, and Gator tickets?
Yep.
That's insane.
All at once.
Only in America.
But like, why don't the Rays do something like that? Like do Costco friendly deal, do things to where you can just generate more people in the stands because this is an exciting team to be around right now. And there's not many people still, and there hasn't been many people over the years that are actually in attendance to watch these great things that they're doing. That's where I'm at. I don't know.
They used to have 7-Eleven tickets. They don't do that anymore.
That's true. They got to do something, guys. Make some sort of freaking move. That's going to wrap it up for us today on this Wednesday edition of Channelside in the Morning. I am Danny, and that is Evan. We will be back tomorrow.